Hello, everyone. My name is Stacy Hodge. I'm the producer of Learning Experiences at the National Restaurant Association, and I would like to thank you all for participating in this webinar titled Using Social Media to Drive Guest Visits. This webinar is a continuation of one of our highest rated sessions at the inaugural Restaurant Revenue Growth Conference that took place just a couple of months ago in May. We are thrilled to provide more resources and extended learning opportunities from the conference over the coming months, so please stay tuned. Before we get started, I would like to cover a few logistics for the webinar. Please make sure that the media player you should see in the bottom left-hand corner of your On24 screen is active to access the audio functionality for this webcast. We will have time as well at the end for questions, and you may submit your questions at any time via the QA window in On24. You'll see the QA window on your screen where you can type in your question at any time. Again, we'll hold questions until the end. And throughout the presentation today, we will be posing some exercises and questions throughout that are really designed for you to work through on your own time. But as you do work through those exercises and questions after the webinar, our presenter, Mark Landsberg, is offering to answer any questions that you may come up with. And you may submit those questions to programming@restaurant.org, and we'll be happy to connect you directly with Mark and his team. In addition, you will receive an email after the webinar with a link to complete a short evaluation. Your feedback is very important, and we appreciate any thoughts and suggestions on future programming as well. You'll also receive an email this week with a link to view the on-demand recording as well as a PDF copy of today's presentation slides. And with that, I would like to thank our Restaurant Revenue Growth Conference sponsors for their ongoing support. They are all incredible National Restaurant Association partners and strong advocates for these extended learning opportunities as part of our conference programming. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker, Mark Landsberg, founder and CEO of Social Deviant, a content marketing agency dedicated to creating value for brands in a socially connected world. Mark has 20 years of marketing and M&A experience, serving as CEO of MRM and ARC, and as a director at Lake Capital. Early in Mark's career, he co-founded startup Digital Knowledge Assets, a web-based knowledge management platform with Twitter CEO Dick Costolo and telecoms guru Tim McDonald. Mark's marketing expertise is unparalleled, and we're thrilled to have him as our presenter today. Please join me in welcoming Mark.
Thank you, Stacy, and thank you very much to the Restaurant Association. I'm delighted to be here, and I'm excited to go through this presentation, so thank you all for joining. I want to talk about driving visits through social media. One of the things that's really interesting is the social media landscape has changed completely, and this won't be unfamiliar to you. Yes, it's full of some of this, and a lot of people pay a lot of attention to these kinds of images, but the reality is it's also full of a lot of this, and a lot of people are both posting and viewing this kind of image, but it's also one of the most sophisticated ways to target and engage audiences today, and that's what I want to talk about. Social media spending, in fact, in the United States is expected to increase to $17.3 billion in 2019. So many people feel if social media is on the wane, in fact, it's on the rise. And more businesses, and especially in the restaurant category, are spending smart dollars in social media. And certainly your competitors are doing it. 9 out of 10 restaurants are very active in social. And I want to show you what some of those restaurants that are successful are doing and how they're doing it. Your audience is also there. More than 200 million posts have been tagged with hashtag food or hashtag drinks, making it some of the most popular content on Instagram. Instagram is a hugely popular social platform in the restaurant category. And the people who are posting that content are really hungry for more. 88% of people are influenced by reviews and by online comments. The content that's posted in and around food and restaurants is not only popular, but incredibly influential in the decisions that people make. So let's talk about how we can use social to drive your business, to drive guest visits, and to drive loyalty and getting people to come back more frequently. There's really 3 ways to use social to drive the bottom line. And this whole presentation, the next 35 minutes plus or minus, will be around these 3 buckets. Number 1 is how to drive buzz and awareness. Make sure that people know about your restaurant and your location. The second is to drive new customers to your front door. That's always the name of the game, make sure people come. And then number three is to get customers to come back and really come back more often. How can we drive the frequency of visits back to your front door? So let's start by talking about how we drive buzz and awareness. I'll show you some frameworks and then we'll go through some examples. Buzz is really a critical component of a restaurant's success. It can generate business momentum if planned and executed thoughtfully. Generate awareness, it drives relevance and consumer connection. It certainly makes you a top-of-mind choice. As you know, when people say, what do I want to do for food? Where should we go tonight? You really want to make sure you're top of mind. And also drive the success of a new offering, a new menu item, a new location, or an event you may be having at your location. But first, a few ground rules. We can't have buzz for buzz's sake. It's not about how much you post. It's really about the impact you have. One of our rules at Social Deviant is always quality over quantity. It's not about feeding your editorial calendar. The second is to be a participant, not a publisher. Plan social content around experiences and ways to engage your audience. Don't worry about 2 or 3 tweets a day or 4 Facebook posts or 4 or 5 Instagram posts. It's really about being a participant in the conversation and creating value for your audience. The third is to own volume-driving moments. Generate buzz when it's important for your restaurant. That might be new menu items, new location openings. How do you fill slow periods during a day? These are really important to think about. What are the moments in your 7-day-a-week calendar where you can really drive volume? And also distribution is key. Consider the use of paid social and also consider the use of influencers. I'll talk about both of those. Generating buzz requires the right level of attention. We've got to make sure that our content gets in front of the right audiences. So there's 3 ways to drive buzz and awareness. The first is to have a clear point of view and a personality. One of the things we like to say is having a point of view is having a point of difference. Really distinguish yourself and your restaurant and your location from your key competitors. Defining your point of view has 3 key components. The first, at the base of the pyramid, is the purpose. It's your stance in the world, why your restaurant exists. Be really clear about what your brand stands for. The second are your interests. What is your restaurant, what are you guys interested in culture and in your neighborhood or your geography or certainly the world around you? And then the actions that you take to build the brand. So we always say, show, don't tell your value. Demonstrate your value and your interest to the world, and your audience will see that. Wendy's is a great example. You guys all know this. They're a challenger brand. Wendy's purpose was to be leader in quality hamburgers, only delivering fresh, never frozen American beef. And their interests were really challenging the status quo. Years ago, Dave Thomas, they full stop were just a challenger brand. And their actions are today aligning their social content with this challenger status. So how did that show up? As you all know, in 2017, Wendy's really began embracing their challenger roots in social. And you can see some of these examples. They were classically redefining what the clapback might be as either in reference to competitive advertising or people responding to directly to Wendy's. And they were having a lot of fun with the brand, positioning the fresh burgers, positioning the fresh, never frozen, and clearly speaking through the lens of the challenger. And their commentary quickly became mainstream. You know, Anderson Cooper was reading some of their tweets. His tweet from Thuggy D, you can read it. And you can see the news and attention. Wendy's epic clapback to a Twitter hater was inspiration that you need. So the media and the press, even globally, began to pick up how Wendy's was, leaning into this challenger status and rising above the normal food porn. And the Wendy's has not only saw a lift in their social metrics, but in their business performance. This is really important. Their Q1 adjusted earnings per share and revenue beat analyst expectations. I only point this out to say that when you're successful in social, when you're driving guest visits, you're driving buzz and awareness, you're also having a direct impact on your bottom line. So the second component of driving buzz and awareness is to create personal relevance. Tap into the personal motivations of the people who come to your restaurant. The first we like to talk about is always ground in fundamental human truths. These are some human truths that we like to talk about. Things like people are lazy, people are voyeuristic. Everyone wants to have something of value. Everybody wants to look behind the curtain. People tend to follow, not lead. Really important in the restaurant category is everybody wants to know something that others don't. Everybody wants to look behind the curtain. You can have private screenings, private events. There's a lot of ways to engage audiences that ground you in these human truths that show the audience that you really understand what's of relevance to them. Pizza Hut did a great job of this. They were experiencing a steady decline in sales. Domino's and Papa John's were both growing in the category, and Pizza Hut really needed to grow by gaining share. So what they did is they owned the rush of March Madness delivery. They knew there was a moment, March Madness. They knew people are pizza crazy during March Madness, and they decided, let's own that rush. And it leaned into the human truth that people are inherently lazy. So they tapped into that human truth and that cultural phenomenon, and they introduced the pie tops, 64 pairs of pie tops that actually, when you press them, connected directly to the Pizza Hut app, allowing you to order pizza literally from your sneakers. So sneakers are relevant to March Madness. They knew people were interested in pizza and delivery. They used some fun technology, and they created these high tops, which was brilliant. And while it was a limited release, it positioned the brand as super innovative and immediately became part of the cultural conversation. There's Mark Cuban courtside wearing them. You can see the Insta post and the tweets, and everybody was talking about them. So one singular act elevated Pizza Hut, helped them own March Madness and the delivery season, and helped drive a lot of traffic to their front door. And it also drove lasting social results. You can see that 259 million social impressions, 1,000 broadcast mentions, and also led to, this year, 2018, the pie tops too. So it's become something that will remain in their calendar. And the third in driving buzz and awareness is to create a sense of urgency, grab people's attention through a unique offering that taps into culture. This is really important. What can be unique? How do you create a sense of urgency to get people to not only be aware of your location, but also to come? And to create a sense of urgency, we think there's a few rules to know. One is to know your role. Know the role your brand plays in the audience lives. You can't overpromise or overdeliver. Lean into culture. Identify the culture trends and currents that intersect with your brand. And embrace the ephemeral web. So that's more going to be Snapchat. Create content and experiences that won't last. Products and special events, deals. People are very attuned to the ephemeral web. They know that content and experiences come and go, and they pay a lot of attention to those. And so lean into that cultural truth. Starbucks did something fabulously on creating some urgency and leaning into the ephemeral web. Starbucks is the drink of choice for millennials today. The brand wanted to expand its base and include younger drinkers by showcasing that it has non-coffee based items. So they were like, wow, okay, our brand is skewing a little bit older, let's come back. And what they did is they created a limited time release, the Unicorn Frappuccino. And they released it through social channels, and the product was only available for 5 days. As you know, scarcity of supply drives incredible demand. It's a little bit like the McRib and some others I'll show you. And they created this Unicorn Frappuccino, tying into an audience truth and leaning into cultural tension, only released through social channels. And the Unicorn immediately became a cultural phenomenon. Everybody was talking about them. Everybody was posting and sharing content. Everybody was reposting and regramming. And it was wildly successful in social media and driving buzz and awareness for Starbucks. And the Unicorn Frappuccino, in fact, drove immediate results for the brand. It drove a swift increase in the stock price, 150,000 uses of the hashtag. So again, you can see how generating buzz and awareness, own a moment, own an occasion, tap into a cultural phenomenon, can have immediate impact on your business results. Another way to drive urgency, I mentioned the McRib. You know that the McRib comes and goes and comes and goes. It's only available for a limited time. These are exactly the kind of things that play into those human truths. People have a sense of urgency. They want something that others don't have. They want to be in the know. When is it coming? Where is it going to be? Roti as well. At Love Hour, buy one, get one free, just during the lunch hour, just for a limited time. Those BOGOs can really be helpful if you're able to budget for them, if you can use them in the right way and be really efficient with your marketing dollars. So limited items, menu items that come and go, people begin to look for them. That's a great way to drive buzz because people are talking to each other about when is the McRib coming back, when is your menu item coming back that people love and crave. So let's summarize this section. The first of being successful in social media, how to drive buzz and awareness. The first is have a clear point of view and personality. A point of view is having a point of difference. The second is creating personal relevance. Make sure we tap into people's personal motivations. And the third is this notion of creating a sense of urgency. It's really important to grab people's attention through a unique offering that plays into both the audience truths and needs and what's happening in culture. And as Stacy mentioned earlier, we just some exercise, some questions that you can think through on your own. This content will be available. And I'll say again, I'll make the offer as you think about these sets of exercises and do some work on your own. If you have questions or want to share some of that with us or discuss them, we'd be absolutely delighted to work that through with you. So one is to identify one moment where you'd like to generate buzz. Is it the release of a new menu item, a new location opening perhaps? How do you fill a traditionally slow period? And what methods could you employ to drive buzz? Think big and small. How will you better own your point of view? What is your brand personality? Don't be a generic restaurant. What do you stand for? And how do you connect and attract the right people? Create greater personal relevance, making sure you're doing things that are relevant for the people that come across your front door. And also, how do you create that sense of urgency? Is it through products, deals, limited time offers? Think some of those things through for your specific location or locations. And then, as I said, if you want to talk about them later, we'd be delighted. I'll take a quick pause. Right now, I know we're going to hold for questions. Please submit them. We're online and streaming them, and we'll do our best at the end to take some of those questions and answer them. Okay, great. Let's talk about section 2. So one, we started talking about buzz and awareness. Now I want to talk about how to drive customers to your front door. I'll show you some frameworks, and then each of those will have some examples. Social media is a really powerful tool to drive customers to your door. More than 50% of people use social media to learn about food. 72% of people have used Facebook to make restaurant or retail decisions. So social plays a really meaningful role in both people's awareness, but also in their preference and the decisions that they make about where to eat and where to go. There's 3 ways to acquire new customers. The first is carefully curate your brand experience. Create a consistent point of view about your brand, both online and offline. Carefully create your brand, and that helps you acquire new customers because they can see their interests and their preferences in your brand. And it's really important to connect the online and the offline. That's a combination of the reviews, both formal and informal, your social presences, and search. Search is social. It's a huge part of your marketing arsenal to make sure you're getting customers to your front door for the first time. And let me talk about each of these. So reviews, to start there, are one of the most visible parts of a restaurant on social. Fact here is a 1-star increase in Yelp ratings results in a 5 to 9% increase in an independent restaurant's revenue. This is a study by Harvard Business School. It's incredibly important to get those ratings and make sure that they're trending in the right direction. You can also maximize your presence on Yelp, and these are just a few high-level tidbits. The first is to claim your page. Make sure to take control of your restaurant and your location's presence. The second is be human. Respond to the reviews that are both positive and negative. Make sure to interact. Make sure to do it through your brand personality and your brand tone. Don't be passive on Yelp. The more actively you engage, the better. Third is listen. Yelp is about reviewing the complete restaurant experience, not just the food. It's everything about the ambiance, the location, the table, the service. So listen carefully to what matters to people. Look at their comments and make sure you're addressing them in the experience, not just the food that you deliver. And the fourth is to build your brand. Of course, add photos, include a menu, consider check-in offers to make it a much more robust and more rounded experience for people. For many diners, it's as much the experience as the food. And streamline your social pages. So these are just a few examples. You can see here, this is the Publican here in Chicago. You want to make it a very easy decision for people when they're looking at reviews. Make it a very easy decision in all of your social presences. So make sure you note hours and popular times. Make sure there's a book now button. Absolutely have the menu. That's the number one thing that people are searching for. They want to look at the food and the descriptors. You start to get the, people's mouths watering, and then they make the decision. The cuisine type, what kind of services does there takeout? Is it good for kids? Is it good for groups? Is it good for company outings? Is it loud or is it noisy? Is it romantic? And definitely allow for reviews. And as I said before, make sure to respond. So be very thoughtful about the use of your social pages and make it a very easy decision for the people who are taking a look. And also streamline local pages. If you have multiple locations, ensure that you have all of your pages linked. use a service that allows you to control branding and content across those platforms. And there are a number of examples. Set clear brand guardrails and posting approaches. What I mean by that, if you're a one-door restaurant, it's easy to control. If you're 5 or 10 or 50 or 100, it's a little harder to control. Make sure you define the brand personality, the brand voice, streamline your social presences so there's consistency, and then localize the content to make sure it's relevant to that local geography or that location. Really important is to optimize your brand for search, and there are 4 things to consider here. So I talked about reviews a la Yelp. I talked about streamlining and maximizing the impact of your social pages. And I'm going to talk about how to optimize your search. Now, the first is optimize for important keywords. There are 3 components of that. One are geographic qualifiers, Kansas City restaurants as an example. Unique features like romantic restaurant. Brand terms ensure that you're outranging the directory and social sites in your space. So you want to make sure that you are really smart about the terms that you use so you can be picked up in both paid search but also organic search. Dominate in local search. Claim, standardize, and optimize listings across relevant search properties. That's search engines, the directories, social media sites, and any industry-specific directory sites. Those vertical industry-specific sites are really important. Double check your NAP, name, address, phone, must be consistent across all sources. Again, you have no idea how many times when we've done research, whether there's the wrong address or the phone number is wrong, and that will get you in a lot of trouble and immediately drive people away. And last is focus on the directories that matter. There's really a few that particularly matter in the restaurant category. Google My Business, obviously Yelp, TripAdvisor, Foursquare. City Search is really important. The localized yellow pages. And there's a lot of emerging niche review sites, as you can see, that are curated both by restaurant experts as well as by sub-industries. Make sure you know what those directories are and make sure to pick the few that matter and make sure that you standardize your presence on those directories. The third then, in maximizing your search, is apply the on-page best practices. There's a couple of components there. First is look at what's there. Check your bots.txt and XML sitemap and set up a Google Search Console to identify errors. This is really important to make sure that you see how your terms are surfacing, what people are looking for. Get really specific. Ensure you have unique and keyword-specific page URLs, title tags, meta description tags, headings, page copy, and image alt attributes. This is a little bit detailed, but if there's somebody running your site or your search or your social, they'll know about this stuff. It's really important to get it right. Search is so important. And start with the most important pages. There's really a few. Home page, your menu page, about your restaurant, and the contact pages. If you do nothing else as you optimize your social, your search, make sure that these 4 pages are clean and accurate. And the last is think mobile. 2/3 of all web traffic is actually from mobile. Ensure that your site is responsive, that the search engines provide bonus for having mobile-friendly site. Make sure that it renders properly on mobile devices. People are on the go. They're leaving work. They're meeting up with friends on a weekend. They're trying to figure out where to go. Very rarely are they at a laptop or a desktop. Again, 2/3 of the instances, they're going to be searching and making decisions from their mobile device. And make sure to consider the details. Page load speed and proper rendering are really critical for a great mobile experience. So that's a lot of information, but here's just a quick example. Milano Pizzerias in Tallahassee, Florida. And they really got back to basics. They put so much information and so much content on their site. They just reduced and simplified. They focused on reducing page load speed. So they removed a lot of unnecessary videos and images. They just focused on the content that mattered. They created a responsive experience. They built it for mobile first. They simplified the navigation, really just a one-page site with about and menu and order. They focused on the core, updating the online ordering to be flawless. That was such an important part of their growth of their business. And they reduced so much content. They removed unnecessary information while focusing on the right keywords. And you can see the impact. 140% increase in site traffic, 150% more search traffic, and 22,000 monthly views in search. So simplify, simplify, simplify. Focus on the core content that matters. Make it easy for people to be attracted and to visit your location. Next in this area, how to acquire new customers, is to drive referrals. Create a pool of new customers by tapping into your loyalists. Referrals play an increasingly important role for restaurants. 88% of people are influenced by reviews and by online comments. And it's super important. There's a couple ways to drive referrals. One is reward for referrals, and the other are just shareable experiences. Let me talk about each of these. So when they reward for referrals, these are explicit referral programs that motivate people to share directly with friends. You invite friends, you get bonus stars, they get a free drink, and there's reciprocal value. So they can be rewards-based. You can consider status and recognition versus just dollars. Always on, they should be integrated into your ongoing and mobile experience. So someone doesn't have to divert and go somewhere else to tap into the loyalty program. It should just be part of that mobile content experience. And it should be super easy to access, located right in your app on the website, and reminders and email. You don't want to create a separate loyalty experience. And then there's shareable experiences. Just lean into Instagram culture by creating experiences that are worth being shared. Now, this is the name of the game in Instagram, and especially in your category, food shots and restaurant experiences. Perfect food shots, ambiance and environment, ownable experiences. You can see these were the 3 of the most Instagram restaurants in 2017. The food sizes, the food portions, Katz's Deli, everybody takes a picture of that pastrami sandwich and tags it and posts it. Or if you have an amazing view, or if you've got a server that's been around forever that's famous, or whatever you've got, a food shot, ambiance, environment, history, what's an ownable experience that you want to almost prompt people to take the picture, and people will do it and they'll post it. And then consider who refers. There's really a couple of different influencers. There's individuals. Referrals from friends and family are often the most powerful as they're based on personal connections. So people know, hey, I'm going to recommend, people are the best filters to information. I trust Sally. I'm going to ask Sally what Italian restaurant she likes in the south side of Chicago. Influencers are the next. They really matter as well. Influencers with fewer than 500,000 followers are the strongest in driving brand action. It's not about the big, fancy, multi-million follower influencers. It's about what we call these micro-influencers that curate restaurants, and they do it even more specifically. Burgers, wings, the best pizza, the best deep dish pizza. Whatever the category, there are micro-influencers who are the leaders in knowledge and curation and lists in that category. You really have to know who those folks are. And then critics, although people are 25% more likely to consult reviews from other diners than professional critics, they still do play a critical role. You can't ignore them. Again, they're not the priority lead source, but they still have to be attended to. And so let's talk about going local and getting specific, creating a reason to visit. One of the things that we love to say, this is just so important, is the need to be known for something. Really be specific. Go all in on a menu item, a personality, or an experience. Represent it across your social presences. Highlight it in your restaurant. Recognize people who take part, and create opportunities to spread word of mouth, challenges, event signage. Here in Chicago, there's a couple great examples. This is the Wiener Circle, and you can see the sign, and they're famous for their negative attitude. You walk in there, and you'll get insulted, and you'll also get a great burger and a great dog. But people go there because they know they're going to have a certain experience. They'll take a photo, they'll post it, and they say, I got insulted, at the Wiener Circle. Or Jake Melnick's also here in Chicago, which has the Hot Wing Challenge. They were featured on the Today Show. They claim that they had the hottest wings in the United States. And if you could eat their wings, the challenge was you got a certificate, and I think you got a free beer, or maybe the meal paid for. The point is, they declared it. They established something really specific. People come from all over for that wings challenge, so much so that they drove amazing awareness and buzz, and even were featured on the Today Show. So get known for something. Think about whether that's a menu item, a personality, a server, or an experience. And lean into the Instagram food culture. Own your food porn. Make the dishes the star of your Instagram handle, and promote a hashtag to aggregate your customers' best food shots. These are a bunch of examples where you can see Devour Fries was one of my personal favorites. Hashtags are the workhorse of social media. It's a great way to keep people invested and connected, and showcase the products on your menu. And the bonus, of course, is if your food is naturally Instagrammable, it may show up on other aggregator sites, even extending your reach, and you can see the bottom example. So make that food photo-worthy, recommend or refer, make sure you know the hashtags, and recommend them and suggest them to your customers. And also go local with your social content. Get specific with your messaging. and with your targeting. There's a couple things to do here. Geo-targeted ads, lookalike audiences, map cards are really increasingly important to make sure people can find your location. And local offers are really important. And again, these are a few examples of restaurants that have done a really nice job of being very hyper-local with geo-targeted ads to make sure they're understanding, what is my attendance area? Hey, people are not going to drive all the way across town. They're going to come from a 2 or 3 mile radius. Be really aware of what that radius looks like and hyper-target and focus within that attendance area. And create a clear value exchange. Content that connects emotionally isn't just likable, but also generates twice as much profit as ads based on rational content only. Let me explain. Functional value, rational content can be like a bit of education, entertainment, utility, access. These are just the nuts and bolts of content. But content that really resonates creates an emotional value, get people to love, great affection or longing. There's a range of emotions, and we want to do our best to tap into these emotions when we're producing content. Jack in the Box is one of our favorite examples. They wanted to build their database of millennials and drive more mobile couponing and more traffic at certain periods of the day. So what they did is they just said, you know what, people eat their mood, so we're going to create this food for every mood. And they just created a bunch of images. They tapped into the weather.com database, and also ESPN. So if it was raining in your local market, or if your sports team lost, then you'd probably be sad, and they just would mobile coupon you an offer for something that might make you happy. They had social calls to action. They activated in text. They had targeted content by geographies, and you can see the things that they did here. So just a simple idea, tonally right, mobile coupon delivery to drive traffic to the front door. So to summarize this section, how to drive new customers to your front door. Number one, carefully curate your brand. Make sure you have a consistent view of your brand online and offline. Number two is drive referrals. Create a pool of new customers by tapping in to your loyalists, and those referrals come in a number of directions, both current customers as well as reviewers. And then go local. Be as specific as you can be in creating a reason to visit. In this area, some of the things that you can be thinking about to drive new customers to your front door. Evaluate your online presence. Is it a good reflection of your offline experience? Are you listening, and are you acting to feedback? Are you responding and being human? Consider how to drive referrals. What role do they play? How could they play a role if you're not using them? And how you can consider individual, influencer, and critic referrals. What are you doing in each of those 3 buckets? And then identify ways to make your content and experience more specific. How can you lean into the Instagram food culture? What emotional as well as functional value can you create? And make sure that you optimize your search for your local attendance area. So just if you want to just take a quick minute and jot a question down or two, we'll make sure to grab that up, and then I'll get in the last section. Okay, great. Section 3, let's get customers to come back and come back more often. How do you turn your restaurant from a once-in-a-while location to that go-to spot? There's 3 key ways to do that. We think the first is to own a moment, to create a reason to come back. Become known for a specific, repeatable moment to prompt a visit. These are examples of some local pubs. You can see trivia night, celebrate important moments, family dinner night, Friday happy hour, like we do in Chicago, school affiliation, hang the Big Ten banner, and you're guaranteed to get traffic on Saturday game day. Think really hard about what you want to be known for, what are those repeatable moments in people's weekly calendars, and how do they associate your restaurant, your location, with those moments. Think about the moments that are right for your restaurant. Identify specific periods that require incremental customer volume, lunch, evenings, Tuesdays, etc. Where are the moments that you can own? Determine a specific target audience you want to consistently attract. Is that families with kids? Is it commuters? Is it Michigan fans? Is it couples? Are you more of a romantic restaurant? Remember, it's not one size fits all. The more specific, the more targeted, the more you really know who you want to attract and why people would come, the more successful you'll be. And then develop experiences or promotions that will encourage repeat visitation. Personalized touches, game nights. Make sure you're developing these experiences that will make people want to come back. The second is to create personal experiences for your customers. One of our favorite mantras at Social Deviant is show them that you know them. Be as specific as you can be. The role of loyalty programs in driving retention is really high. Almost 55 million Americans are enrolled in some kind of restaurant loyalty program. And there are different motivations for individuals to connect. Some want to earn points, recognition, receive discounts. But not all loyalty programs are created equal. Some you really have to work for, like Chick-fil-A's weirdly exclusive loyalty program is actually by invite only, and once you're there, there's a lot of really interesting offers and treats and discounts that become available to you. And then on the right, some are just, hey, come one, come all, sign up, and we'll email you or text you when we've got a new menu item or possibly a discount. So think about the kind of loyalty program that works for your location. Take these personal experiences beyond loyalty programs alone, as you can see. Show them that you know them. When there are loyalty programs where you really respond to people, act human, pay attention, change your tone, speak to existing customers differently than you would someone new, recognize them, highlight loyal fans in your content and experiences. Consider the little details like highlighting their favorite table or dish, and listen well, react to your fans, their questions, desires. You can see in this case, Wendy's people were like, man, we want the spicy chicken nuggets, stop bringing them away. And they responded to people, online commentary, and plea for those spicy chicken nuggets. So when you can recognize your loyal fans, when you can show them that you're listening well, when you can change your tone and respond to them directly, a lot of good things happen. The third and final point in this section of getting customers to come back is focus on the power of relationships. Connect on a deeper level. People connect with restaurants for a lot of reasons. It could be a specific menu item, maybe a certain table with a certain view, quiet or buzzy. Maybe it's the host or hostess or a particular server. I know I go to restaurants. I love Jane. She knows what I like. She knows to bring the cocktail right when I sit down. She knows to hold the green peppers, whatever. People really respond to this familiarity, and they connect with restaurants for these specific reasons. Be as aware of that as you can be in your location. And the power of relationships is true loyalty isn't rational, it's emotional. So you have an opportunity to create a deeper relationship. Create on a human connection, spotlight the people who make the restaurant special. You can see here's a few examples, and they're actually highlighting a chef, and they're showing certain ingredients and the things that he's making. And connect through these stories. Share how a dish was inspired, what drove your decor. Connect on that deeper relationship. Get people to feel really familiar. Show me that you know me. Use my name. Have that table waiting for me. Set down the beer or the Diet Coke. Reward me for acknowledging you as much as I can. That creates this reciprocal value. So the summary in this section, how to get customers to come back and come back more often. Own a moment. Create a specific reason for people to come. Tuesday nights, college game days, commuters, whatever it is. Create personal experiences for your customers. Show them that you know them. Use their name. Highlight features, menu items, and the like that really matter to them. And then focus on the power of relationships wherever you can. Connect on a deeper level. And in this bucket, guys, you can think about some exercises to get customers to come back. Do you currently own a specific moment? Are you known for something, a tone, a personality, a menu item? Do you currently have traditional loyalty programs, or is it just rewards and points? And how can you create a deeper relationship with your customers? How can you better connect online and offline? And what stories do you have to tell them that are relevant to them and will get people to come back on a more frequent basis? So we'll pause for questions, and with that, I'm just going to summarize the key takeaways from today. The summary is the first bucket is generating buzz and awareness. Have a clear point of view and personality. Create personal relevance by tapping into personal motivations, and create a sense of urgency. Get people's attention through offers. The second is how to drive customers to your front door. Carefully curate your brand experience. Drive referrals by creating a pool of new customers. Get loyal and get specific as much as you can. And the third is get people to come back and come back more often. Own a moment, a reason for them to come back. Create these personal experiences for your customers. Show them that you know them. And focus on the power of relationships by connecting at a deeper level. I really appreciate your time, everyone. I'm going to stop there. That was a lot of content. And we'd be delighted now to take the rest of the time with questions.
Thank you so much, Mark, for all of this information. I'm sure that this will be very useful for our audience today, and we do have several questions, so we'll do our best to get through as many as possible before we conclude within the next 15 minutes or so. And my colleague, Mark Lapidus, here at the National Restaurant Association, will help address these questions with you, so I'll turn it over to Mark.
Great. Mark, thank you. First question is, what is the best way to promote specials or deals for an upscale restaurant?
Yeah, that's a great question. Upscale restaurants, you want to be really careful. Number one is I'd avoid discounts. It's really not about price. Generally for upscale restaurants, it's about experiences. The second thing that we found is a lot more about personalized or customized experiences. So there could be a private tasting, a private viewing, maybe a chef's table, a chef's menu evening. These are the kinds of things that upscale restaurants can do that to curate an experience carefully, still drive some attention and drive people's participation. And the last thing I'll say is sometimes people want to have a special restaurant experience, but maybe can't afford it. So there are ways to get people in the door for the first time. And the assumption is if they come, they're going to come back. One of the fundamental human truths, everybody wants something that others don't have. Everybody wants to look behind the curtain. So if you can create these special events, special moments, a chef tasting. I remember there's a restaurant in Chicago I used to go to all the time. It was a breakfast restaurant. The chef actually happened to be a famous chef who worked at a major restaurant. And once a quarter, he would have a dinner tasting menu and invite just their special guests. And you really felt quite special there.
Great, Mark, thanks. Next question is, what do you recommend for brands with more than one location? Should each location have its own social page?
I think what happens there is you want to have a standard look, feel, and presence. I don't think it's important necessarily for each location to have its own page, but there should be, number one, a location finder, so you should know where the cities are. Number two, if you click on that location finder, there can be a landing page or a microsite that's got content and experiences that are specific to that geography. There might even be menu items that are more specific to that geography, so you want to be sure to highlight them. If you take any national restaurant chain right now and you look at their social presences, they're all standardized because they have generally the same menu. But when you click to a specific location, there might be a menu item or a particular server or something that's unique to that location. So the short answer is you should not have separate pages, but you should have sections of your site if you have particular menu items or things that are relevant to that region and location that you can highlight and feature, as well as the search terms that are relevant in that local market.
Mark, what tools do you recommend to take professional food photos for Instagram?
Yeah, well, get an iPhone 10, I think, as a good start. I mean, what's interesting with food photography is I'd be as real as possible. What people are looking for is they can tell when food images are seriously retouched, and those aren't the images that respond and resonate. I'd be really careful about post-editing and tools like Photoshop and the like. The most popular images are people just pointing their camera and shooting. What's really more important than the tool is actually the framing of the shot. And so if you saw on that slide when I showed you the 3 most Instagrammable photos in 2017 that were food-related, ambiance, what a lot of restaurants do is they'll know that they've got a particular dish that's particularly photo-worthy. And they'll frame it and they'll shoot it and they'll know. And they'll know how to actually feature that item. They'll know how to shoot it, and they might even recommend for people, the lighting and the imagery to take that shot. So that's one thing, is just make sure that you keep it authentic. You don't want to retouch that imagery. You don't want to edit it too much, but you do want to know what will stylize and make that food shot look as good as possible.
Can a brand explore more than one key drive for clients to visit the restaurant? One key
drive. Yeah, so there are a number of moments, and we love this idea of owning a moment. That's a great question. There are a lot of restaurants that are breakfast, lunch, dinner, or possibly late night. There's no reason why you can't have 2 of those moments to drive audience and customers to the front door. Be thoughtful, though, because you don't want to overreach. You don't want to have every moment and every occasion. It could be by the calendar. It could be by day part, or it even could be by a menu item. Whatever it may be, I will say 3 things. 1, it can't be too many. Number 2, make sure it's specific and specifically relevant to the audience that you want to attract. And then number 3, make sure to promote those moments. Make sure that people know. So for instance, an Applebee's, is really pushing happy hour. Red Robin is really talking about their hamburgers now, but they still may have late night menu item, and they're pushing that as well. You can also do that via separate social channels, separate audiences. Maybe the happy hour is more of a business audience, and the late night is maybe a younger millennial crowd that's looking for a snack after being out. So different occasions and different drive periods can also be segmented with different audiences.
How do you encourage hashtag use? Are there formulas to determine good, unique hashtags, as well as which general hashtags will help others find you?
Yeah, it's a great question. Hashtags are really they are the key to the promised land. The road to a lot of followers and visits is paved with proper hashtag use. The first is, number one is look at the hashtag use for your restaurant or in your category. If you're a burger chain or a pizza shop or an upscale restaurant or something in the middle, take a look at the hashtags that are highly relevant to your restaurant, to either the menu item, to the geography. Number two, you can search those hashtags on Instagram. There's a search feature, and you can see which are the most popular and which are the most active and which are the most used. Number three is you should have use of those hashtags. You don't want to create too many of your own hashtags because you may have 10 people following it. That's not going to get you the buzz or the awareness or the customer count that you're looking for. Number four is when you post content, be very careful not to use too many hashtags. At Social Deviant, we recommend no more than 3 to 4 per post. So once you've done that research, once you've done the search, if you've identified influencers and those micro-influencers and you know what their hashtags are that they're curating, then for each post you can be really thoughtful about the hashtags that you should be using. Don't use a laundry list. Generally don't create your own. Look at those by search that are most popular and relevant to your menu item or to your geography or to your restaurant.
Okay, we're going to ask 2 more questions. Next one is, how should you interact with your customers on Instagram?
I think actually Instagram was one of the best platforms for interacting, and you should be very active there. When people post a food image, you should absolutely comment. You should like it. I know in my own experience when I post something, even in any direction of the hospitality industry, even if I'm at a hotel, certainly if I'm at a restaurant and I post and I like the food or the ambiance or the server, and I get a clap back and they respond to me, it's incredibly compelling. The second thing is you might even want to invite them back. You might want to say, hey, at Mark Landsberg, thank you very much for that. We hope to see you next week again. We'll have the oysters waiting. If you can be even more personal based on the comment or the image that they post, that's really likely to drive them to come back. And more importantly, the goal is not just to get them to come back, but to refer and talk about it. So once you show them that they know them and refer them, they'll be really responsive. They'll become brand ambassadors. They'll post again. They'll come back and they'll invite their friends. The last thing I'll say is you can actually DM them. So you should post publicly, but you might want to DM me and say, Mark, thank you for that comment. We'd love to have you back. We'd love to, if you invite others, we'll give you, the beers on us or whatever the offer that you might want to make. People really like that because they can show that a restaurant knows them and they feel very important when they show up.
All right, and the last question. Normally, Facebook events are for one-time events. Do you recommend creating Facebook events for moments like happy hours or trivia nights, even though they are weekly?
I absolutely do. I think those Facebook events are really great to just remind people, get them to register, get them to sign up. The reminders come in your feed. They really are important, and it is not a bad thing because the feed gets curated. It's okay that they're weekly as really powerful reminders. And again, I would complement that Facebook moment feed with possibly the Instagram hashtags and possibly your search terms. So look at your array of social media platforms and make sure that they complement around that specific moment and drive period.
Well, that's it for the questions. Thank you, Mark.
Great. Well, thank you, both Marks, and to Mark Landsberg, again, for your time and lending your expertise in this extended webinar from the Restaurant Revenue Growth Conference. Thank you all for attending, and if you have any questions after the webinar, please don't hesitate to email those to programming@restaurant.org, and we'll be happy to follow up with you. We will be sending the evaluation after today's webcast. We encourage you to provide your feedback and suggestions for future topics, as well as we'll be sending this week a link to listen and play back the webinar recording, as well as a PDF of today's presentation slides. Thank you all again, and thanks again, Mark. We appreciate everything.
Thank you all very much, and enjoy your day.